And if you delve into economics, they will admit that the reason the USA has prospered was the lack of government interference, and lack of mighty bureaucracies and government agencies overlooking the working people at the sources and the small businesses. That's why they could take off and prosper. You didn't have them coming out to check what you were doing as you manufactured your products and so on. You didn't have guys with measuring tapes coming to see how much you should measure your buildings and tax you for. That didn't count until much later. And it came much later because they were already into the Anglo-American establishment, deciding on a future for the 20th century. Very wealthy, powerful people within the U.S. were already placed strategically, in fact, to run the money system. They crushed the money system 3 times in the late 1800s by design to plunder a lot of those small businesses, which they then took over for peanuts under bankruptcy laws, and they formed international corporations out of them. If you have 500 engineering shops go under and you buy them over, you just conglomerate them, you see, and now you got a big corporation. And this is going right up to the present day because in the 1800s they decided that this was the way of the future. That a small elite, with the money elite already managing the cash system, the cash flow for the good part of the world at that time, would merge with the scientific elite and also with academia. And the peasant, as always, would remain the peasant. He'd be kept entertained and he would work and pay taxes. And that keeps the government going with its new ideas to fund their new projects and so on. Now, we are treated as children. And I have heard people in other countries talking about the natives of those countries as children. Now, you can't speak to them as ordinary. You see, they are really children. And they boss them around and even kick them around and stuff like that. And we don't realize that in our own countries that's what is being done to us. We are talked down to like children. We simply don't understand the big pictures and the big problems that governments face, you see. We get baby talk at the bottom, or we are told really a glossary, superficial rundown of what particular thing it is that's too problematic for us to understand, leaving us more confused than ever. And linguistic minimalism is dropping off until people can hardly put a sentence through. The young people can't do it, which suits the elite perfectly well, because if you can't explain something in detail, something that is complex and has to do with world governance, what kind of governance, how it's run and so on, if you can't put it across, then people will just stare at you in confusion. Mind you, if you can put it across and you are not using linguistic minimalism, they still stare at you in confusion, because they still don't understand what you are saying, and they have been trained to believe that the media is telling them everything that they should know. They really do believe that. Look at the people they call primitives, the ones they call arrested developments, who are really survivalists. They don't need the world, they don't need what man makes in commerce. They make everything themselves. They will look up and fight you if you try to take over their land and change them. They are natural. They are wild men. We are supposed to be wild for survival's sake. When we don't do that, we are being domesticated and conquered. When the government controls the distribution of food, its power is absolute. That's very important. That's why a government with its 5 biggest global agro-businesses are running the world's food supply. So their power is absolute as long as they can count on the police and armed forces. Of course, it is assured that the police and armed forces will be given certain privileges that only the elites themselves get. Remember too, you always hire half the poor to kill the other half. The governments also know that too. The total information network has to make sure that the society is predictable. Every one of us must be completely predictable. And that's why your daily data that you spread over the internet through emails, chat and phone, etc. is all automatically being monitored, collected and sorted by supercomputers. This all is done to keep your personal profile updated, to make sure that you have not gone a bit odd or strange or outside your patterns of thinking and behavior, and to make sure you have not changed your social milieu into an unauthorized sector. That's what it is all about. The world of totalitarianism is here. We have been living through it, growing up our whole lives. There have accumulated many articles over the years dealing with super weaponry and stuff beyond sound cannons, towards microwave energy and so on. It is all made for us at home, to be used at the right time, right down to the army itself's own think tank, a specialized think tank which foresees the future, predicts trends and how things are going to go. They are talking of about 30 years of rioting across the world. So far, we have watched them putting up their drones. Now they are putting their drones up all over the skies. I have even got photographs of them here. These drones will be used across the globe, there is no doubt about it. Drones can be pretty small, like the size of birds, but they can target any individual to kill, wherever it is. That's why they are saying the scientific dictatorship cannot possibly fail. The problem, as the communists were well aware of any revolution, is it takes years and years and years to plan and work and organize. And organization is very important. And this is the only thing. They are afraid at the top that grassroots organizations could get public sympathy and public support and starting to override general daily propaganda media news. Because if something did arise like that, they would be targeted right away. They would be called every dirty name and slogan in the book. Because they could not allow grassroots organizations to gather members. And they would not tolerate it. And it's interesting what Russell said too. That they wouldn't explain to the other members of society, that's you and me, why they are doing something, why they are being ruthless to a specific group of people, for example. They will just do it. See, they are beyond the stage of giving us excuses anymore. That's part of the training. And we get trained not to expect excuses along the way. That's what it is about.